Alright, hey, what's up, guys? I'm Kurt, as you might know, and welcome to Pod Kurt. As you can see, we're actually in my room right now at Georgia Tech. This is where I stay, at least this sophomore year I lived here. This is kind of the wall where I have all the questions that we're going to try and answer. Not today, we'll do one of them today. But this is the library that I was talking about in the last one. I love that place. It's brand new and it's pretty cool. Alright, today we are talking about, it's a little bit phrased weirdly, but I think it's a question that's being asked a lot in today. It's called, how many jobs are created just to keep some people busy? And the answer to that is very hard to work up to. I made kind of a list of points to talk to, but here we go. So I think that many jobs, 9 to 5, kind of when you first get out of college, they're definitely entry-level jobs and you're doing mostly grunt work, and the grunt work is stuff that needs to be done in order to accomplish like a higher level goal. Say you're doing grunt work for you're coding work for a company, and they need you to make an algorithm that can sort a certain amount of items between shipping and processing, and you need to be able to write this code that just takes in numbers and puts out other numbers in order to actually churn and make a profit for the company. I think that if you're not really understanding the large scale of why that you're actually doing this, it's very hard to find purpose in your job. So if you were to see the large scale, then you'd see that, well, in the shipping algorithm that you created, you're actually increasing the efficiency of how items can move from place to place. So then from doing that, you're allowing everyone to purchase whatever they need a lot cheaper. And from that, there goes further and further levels of the impact that will have on society. So basically, in the short term, you're lowering shipping rates for your company, but in the long term, you're really allowing more people to accomplish what they want to do in life. And I think that the way that you can be the most purpose-driven in your job or in whatever you do is to believe it is the center of society, and like the crux of the universe is what you're working towards. And this is a question I might talk on another time, but it's like, if the universe is infinite, then the center is everywhere. And so you can literally be the center of the universe even though there's multiple centers of the universe. All right, let's get back to the topic. And so a lot of the times, the jobs that are really hard for people to find purpose in are ones that don't really have any long-term significance. So really, they're organizing a shelf somewhere, stacking boxes. They might be like moving things that will eventually get changed down the line, and they're ultimately sitting at their desk all the time typing numbers and not really understanding their whole purpose. And I think that this can span from people who are educated to non-educated. And I really think that, like, being at a big tech school or any school, you really have job fairs where they try and funnel you into the job that best suits you. And I think most people that are not purpose driven and don't take course in where they decide to go in their working career end up in the least purpose driven jobs. And I think that is exactly how it goes. And I think that a lot of people are okay with having a 9 to 5 job. It's like, okay, I'm going to suffer so hard for these few hours that I'm at work, and then I'm going to come home and relax and have a good time. And I don't know if there's really anything wrong that you can say that is. I think that is a very valid point of understanding, but it's not like you're adding up and then subtracting your happiness instead of continuously building it. So really, you're just like, all right, thank God it's Friday. Like, this weekend I'm gonna go ham, I'm gonna have such a good time, and then once Sunday evening rolls around, you're like, oh my God, this is awful. I gotta go back into work tomorrow. And I don't know if that's long term, you see that more and more, or less and less. I'm not really there yet. So I think that like I said before, it's kind of hard to quantify how many jobs are actually created to keep some people busy, because in the term where you understand like creating jobs, it's a big thing when a company says like, oh, we're branching out and creating a new network of places, and we're going to be creating 20,000 new jobs, and everyone's like, yeah, good stuff. Or like a politician says, I want to create more jobs for everyone, and they always think that creating jobs is kind of the best thing they can do, not only for the economy but also the places where people live, and giving more people opportunity to make money for their family, which is honestly a very good thing written on paper. But when you go in to see what the 20,000 jobs do, how many of those jobs are actually redundant, and how many of those jobs can be completed in a more efficient manner by either one person or a computer algorithm or something like that. And I think it makes people a lot on edge when they realize that their job is really something that an autonomous robot can fulfill. And that kind of leads into the next kind of question that spans from this, is like the jobs that really keep people busy that can be fulfilled by an autonomous, not robot or algorithm or something like that. Like, is that really a bad thing that they get their job replaced and society is made more efficient? On one end, yes, it definitely takes away the job and the earnings of one person, but also relieves a human from doing a job that's very basic and boring and unfulfilling. Like, if you're really just taking in numbers and spewing out information using the same coding techniques that can be generated by a neural network or something like that, then are you really like purpose driven? And if your purpose is to make redundant code, like, will you be fulfilled by that? I don't know, but I really don't think many people are driven in that manner. And so then what happens when a lot of the jobs are taken by autonomous workers? Like right now, you even see that restaurants are being replaced by, or at least restaurant baristas are being replaced by like robot arms that just fill coffee cups and give them to guests, or restaurants that have robots that actually bring the food to the table, a lot of that in China. Or automation in literally every industry. Even the car washing industry is getting so increased by robots that in that drive-through. And the list can go on and on and on, but I think in the end, most things can be accomplished through robots. And so then where does that leave people? I think that there could be a lot of riots that occur because people say like, the computers are taking all of our jobs, we have nothing to do all day, what are you going to do? And I think that like automation could be freedom in a sense where it just allows a person to do whatever they want, not necessarily creating something for a large business, but creating something for themselves. Like if you can get paid to make your house nicer by building it more, or get paid just to pursue your passion in creating art. And I think art is definitely something that would be hard for a computer to really generate on its own. And so I think that's something that will be more fulfilling to people in the long run, and not just taking in numbers and spitting out other numbers, or moving boxes from some other place to another. And so then I think that there's a sense of, this is the argument for universal basic income down the line, is when society can get to a point where people aren't really necessary for its efficiency. Like computers can run everything better. And so if humans are deprived, or we'll say relieved or deprived, whatever stance you can take on it, of a typical 9-to-5 job, but they still have like the income that they're getting from that, would that necessarily be a good thing to have a source of income from doing nothing? In one sense, you can say that it guarantees the sustaining of life and the allowing of that person to reach out and do whatever they want. But on other ends, you can see that people that are raised up in really rich families and get everything they want, they become spoiled and eventually could lead to drugs or very, very bad habits that because you don't have to provide or rely on yourself, you can basically just have the most fun. And having the most fun is something that can really be detrimental in the end, because you're not really understanding what you want to accomplish. And I mean, I'm just going on and on. My head is just, I don't really have a track for this. I'm just kind of bouncing thoughts off myself. But this is kind of why I started this podcast, was so I can kind of converse with myself in the sense that I can see my views on something and kind of just put it out there. Because I don't know if there's really a side you can take on if universal basic income would be good or not, or how difficultly it would be applied to the members of society that don't really need to work, because kind of a computer could do it better. And that may be something that's really hard for someone to hear and really hurts their ego, but it could really help them in a sense of fulfilling what they actually want to accomplish. And I think, kind of what I say in the last video, the biggest thing in order to find out what you want to accomplish is start defining things that you think you would want to accomplish later down the road, and then actually acting towards them. And then one day, if you get there and you don't like it, you're like, okay, I figured out this path, and I'll try this one because this is what I think I want to do now. And so you cannot really, I don't think you can go wrong by depriving someone of a very labor-intensive, unfulfilling job. But the more thing is, what's next? How do you fulfill someone? And would this be accomplished by people that create devices for consumers to use to kind of like escape? Like, would this encourage people to hop into a virtual reality, or, as some would say, like upload their consciousness into some sort of algorithm that allows them to live out their wildest fantasies eternally, or until they die, or until their body dies, or something like that? Is that where it would lead to, kind of a Matrix-like setting? And then would people be unfulfilled if they could live out every dream? Would they really not see a purpose if they could do whatever they want? And so that's definitely where it goes back into the idea that this is definitely very wacky and off-piste, but it's like what Elon Musk thinks about, that we're already in a simulation. Like, of course, if that were the case, then why can't I shoot lasers out of my fingers? Or why can't I just like fly around? I think that's definitely because if you really want something, then you have to straight make it work and do it yourself. Because if you really want it, then that's what you'll do. And the only reason for you to get purpose is to find something you want to do and continue doing it, and finding out that you are making progress to get there somewhat. And I think that is easily the best way to solve keeping people busy, is not keeping people busy, but keeping people engaged in their purpose, keeping people on the way to pursue their passion. I know that sounds like a very cheesy and broad term, but it really is something that you have to consider for the long run. Because of course you can just joke about it every day, like, oh, life sucks, like, work sucked today, I hate it. And then you just pull up right back at work the next week and do it all again. And that is something that I really do not understand. I mean, I have not done it that much. I've gone to a 9-to-5 job all the time, but I think kind of dedicating yourself to a 9-to-5 job like that is definitely giving up your freedom, but also lessening responsibility. And I think that is a big thing, because if you do not have as much responsibility in your life, then you really don't feel like there's that big of a burden on your shoulders, so you can relax a little and you can be more comfortable with letting yourself slack. Because if you really have nothing to hold yourself responsible for, you don't have any commitments or anything, then what's wrong with just like sleeping all Sunday or all weekend and not doing anything? Or what's wrong with like partying all the time and doing all the drugs? And what's wrong with countless other things? And so once you can get into kind of a hole where you basically know that, yeah, okay, I'm getting paid, I just have to suffer for this amount of time, and then I can do whatever I want without much responsibility, then I think that could be hurtful. And that's also, it's like a catch-22, because if you still eliminate jobs, then the lack of purpose will not disappear. And it's really hard to say which direction it'll it'll go. If deleting jobs will make people find their purpose easier or make it harder for people to find purpose. And I think it's very much so based on individual action. And I really don't think that anyone can decide for another person if they're going to find their purpose or not, because really it depends on that person to take the steps themselves. And yeah, so I think you want to really eliminate busy jobs as hard as you can and find ways to give more people a purpose in what they're doing and actually fulfilling things that they think are actually cool and are helpful to people, and that everyone can really say like, wow, good, you really accomplished something, and you can say to yourself, I accomplished something. And I think that is easily what life is about. I think that is definitely it, Chief. Like yeah, so then the next question is, how do you give people that purpose? Can you make a system that like allows someone to be instilled in finding their purpose? Like, can you force someone to find their purpose? I don't think so. And so how can you create a system that allows people to find their purpose in the most efficient manner? I feel like that's a very heavy and very thought consuming question. And I think I'll leave you with that. So let me know if you have any ideas, shoot me an email, or whatever. I'm here all the time, here to talk. Pod Kurt out. Chief, that was good.